Welcome to the Salesforce tutorial on reports. Previously, we've went over the rest of the Salesforce objects to the left of this. However, reports are different than what we've been dealing with previously. Previously, we created an account, we added context to the account, added cultivations to the example account, added talleres, and connected a project. But this is all for a single account and how that account has interacted with Alterna and how we've interacted with them. For reports, we're aggregating data over many accounts or many contacts or many cultivation phases, however you want to see it. So it's not contained to a single example account. And that's fundamentally different. This is how we in M&E or anyone else who needs contact information or revenue information or blah 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 over many businesses gets that information in an easier way than clicking through every single object within accounts that we need to see, get information on, and recording that. The reports just generates that. So if we click reports, it'll bring up this page and we can see that there's quite a few pre-made reports here that we don't usually use, but we can save reports if we want to recreate them later with updated data here. If I click new report, this page will come up, and this is where I can choose the data type of the report that I want to create. Now, there are many data sources to choose from, as you can see. And the main thing I want to emphasize with this, rather than going through each individual type, is that it's really important that you consider the implications of where you're pulling your data from. And just to give you a basic overview, I'll give you 3 examples: accounts, contacts and accounts, and accounts with cultivation phases. Okay, so for accounts, the data that would be pulled would be just the account data, so data from the accounts page. And this would mean that if we were to pull in all of the accounts, we get the number, the count would be the number of accounts that we have in Salesforce. Now, if I was to do contacts and accounts, well, keep in mind we can only create contacts, or you usually create contacts connected to an account. So this means that for the contacts that also are connected to an account, we would have a list of all those contacts. And as you can imagine, there's sometimes 2 or 3 contacts connected to every account. So the contacts and accounts list would have more entries than the accounts list, just because there's simply more contacts. And every row would represent a contact, not an account. And then lastly, say we were to choose accounts with cultivation phases. This is actually a subset of the accounts. And this is because of the accounts, only a certain proportion of those accounts have cultivation phases. So this report would only include those accounts that have a cultivation phase connected to them. Now, for an example report that I'm going to have us create, we're just going to create an email list of organizational emails from our entrepreneur businesses. And we'd get this just by clicking on the account. So we're just going to get a single email for every entrepreneur business. So if I click to accounts and click create report, and bring up this page. And I have it preloaded because sometimes it takes a little while to bring up. Now the first thing I always do is I show all accounts. By default it goes to my accounts, but we want all accounts because my accounts only shows the accounts created under my profile. So we show all accounts, and for the range, we want accounts created from all time, so all the accounts that have been created. And then lastly, one of the first things I do is I choose remove all columns, because it's annoying to go through every column and choose to manually remove it. Now we just simply need to add the account names, the emails, and filter to only include entrepreneur businesses. And the way I recommend going through to figure out what fields to put in here is to pull up an example of an account. So I have our example account pulled up, and we can see the fields that are available for an account. So the fields you see are the fields that would be filled with data if I was to run a report. So if we want account name, we'd simply we'd type in account name and look for the account name to add to our report. So if I search account name, it comes up, and we can drag and drop that, and now we have our first column. And then the next column we'll want is organizational email. So if I scroll down to contact information, we can see that organizational email is where an email would be listed. So we can search for that field. I'm just going to type in email, and it should come up. And I can also, instead of dragging and dropping, double click, and it will add the column to the rightmost space. And then lastly, we want to filter this for entrepreneur businesses. We don't want to have, for example, investor organizations or ecosystem peers and partners included in the report. So if we scroll up, we can see that the place that we identify whether or not it's an entrepreneur business is through the account record type. So if it's an account record type that is an entrepreneur business, we know that it is an entrepreneur we work with. So we'd look up the account record type. We see it here, and we're going to pull it, instead of pulling it into the preview pane, we pull it into the to add filters, click add pane. So you drag and drop it there, and we have the field listed here, and we have two options, equals or not equals to. We want it to equal, and we'll click on the magnifying glass. We want it to equal the entrepreneur business record type. So we check that, click insert selected, and then click OK to make this filter take effect. And now we'll have a list and say sort alphabetically ascending. And we could also remove the column if I wanted to take it out by clicking remove column. And same with every field. It works like this. And then now I have the report available, but this is just a preview. I have to run the report to get the full report. And here we'll have all of the records of our entrepreneur business types with their organization emails listed. And we will be able to go back and edit this. Say I wanted to change something about this list. I could click on customize, and it'd bring me back to the page we were at, which would allow me to add more columns or remove them, so on and so forth if I wanted to change something post running a report. And if I want to export to Excel, I just click export details and then export, and it'll create an Excel document for you to work with.